Hi guys, welcome to this video. So 20 days after the death of George Floyd in the United States of America, there are still protests across the globe. Like here in London, there's been so many protests over the weekend. It got to an extent that the Prime Minister tweeted that hopefully the Winston Churchill statue will now be removed by protesters in central London. I've seen so many videos, I've seen so many clips of so many protesters vandalizing stuff, clashing with the police. I don't think this is the right thing to do. I strongly feel we need to refrain from this. We need to stop this. The voices can be heard without you having to do all of this, without you having to channel grievances through vandalism, clashing with the police, beating one another. I've seen so many horrible pictures that I cannot show you on this program. And that is something that we really need to look into, that we need to stop. The protest is fine. You can stage a peaceful protest. You want your voices to be heard. No one is saying Black lives does not matter. We all know that Black lives matter, and we know that the countries across the globe are currently thinking of a way forward to eradicate systematic racism that is plaguing the world today. So we need to make sure that we stage our protest peacefully, and we try to refrain from vandalizing things and clashing with police. So moving on, in 1956, the UK were willing to grant independence to colonies provided they joined the Commonwealth. In 1960, majority of African countries gained independence, but France maintained 14 colonies during this period, maintaining their CFA franc currency. France made majority of these colonies in Africa to sign a document, what is known as Pact to Colonization. In that document, 85% of the national reserve of 14 African countries since 1961 has been deposited in France's central bank. In fact, this has amounted to around $500 billion every year into the French treasury.
In the 1950s and 60s, France decided the French colonies of Africa to become independent. Although the Paris government accepted formal declarations of independence, it called on African countries to sign a so-called Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. They agreed to introduce the French colonial currency FCFA franc for the French colonies in Africa, to maintain the French schools and military system, and to establish French as an official language. The CFA franc is the denomination of the common currency of 14 African countries members of the franc zone. This currency, which constitutes a break on the emergence of these countries, was created in 1945 when France ratified the Bretton Woods agreements and proceeded to implement its first declaration of parity to the International Monetary Fund (IMF). This was called Franc of the French Colonies of Africa. Since 1961, Paris has had controls over all foreign exchange reserves of Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea and Gabon. These 14 countries are required to 85% of their foreign exchange reserves at the Banque de France in Paris. These countries are forced into a colonial tax, a tax that is based on the idea that these countries, despite having independence, owe France for the benefits of France's previous colonial rule. France also has first say over any new natural resources uncovered. Although this has been known for some time, it's just been dug up again by a German newspaper who are putting the yearly figure at $440 billion. The French government collects from its former colonies each year €440 billion of taxes. France relies on the revenues coming from Africa not to sink into economic insignificance, warns the former President Jacques Chirac. But what happens if a country just flat out refuses to pay this tax? Well, when Jean Bedel Bokassa, the first president of the Central African Republic, was assassinated, it was reportedly on French orders, by ex-Foreign Legionnaire David Dacko. This was just one of 67 coups that has occurred in 26 African countries, of which 16 are ex-French colonies. Many of these coups d'états can be tracked back to French Secret Services actions. And on the economic side, when a country tries to rebel, then France controls so much of the assets they are literally held prisoner. We all agree that the French colonial practices in Africa need to end.
Arikana Chiombori, the African Union ambassador to the United States of America, stated this during an interview.
They have significant control over all of their former colonies, specifically 14 of them. Just to give you the highlights of what they did when they were giving the independence, so to speak, to their former colonies. They forced them to sign a document which they are calling the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. You have to understand, on one hand, they are saying we're giving you independence, which turned out to be mostly political independence, but that you also have to sign this document, which is titled the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. So you're going to be independent, but you have to agree to continue to be colonized. So every 14 billion that France takes out of Africa, by the time they finish investing it in the French stock market, they are realizing upwards of 300 billion. So you do the math to see how much money France is taking out of Africa every year. And yet France has the audacity to then look at African countries and call them poor countries. Why would poor African countries give $500 billion to France year in and year out? What really gets me the most is, how does the world sit back and watch this carnage take place in Africa? Where is the United Nations? This is the body that's supposed to be looking out for any violations of human rights. It is my humble opinion that singularly, what France is doing to Africa is the biggest violation of human rights. Women and children are dying of starvation, youth unemployment, when the same poor countries are giving $500 billion to France. It simply does not make any sense. And I don't know how the world can sit back and watch all this unfold and nobody is saying anything. It's unacceptable. It is wrong, and we're simply asking France to do what is right, what is just, and what is fair with the Africans.
So from the 1st of December 2019, Ivorian president and the French president met, and they agreed that the currency, which is CFA franc, can now be changed to ECO.
8 countries in West Africa have agreed to change the name of their common currency to ECO. But the monetary overhaul is more than just a name change. Key financial links to France, which created and backed the currency, will also be cut. Kamina Delek explains.
De la centralisation.
50% of our currency reserves will no longer be held in the French treasury. French representatives will be removed from all decision-making bodies of the Economic and Monetary Union of West Africa.
8 West African countries have agreed to adopt the ECO, while many Central African countries will continue to use the CFA franc. States hopes to have the ECO in place in 2020, but this may be optimistic. None of the member states currently meet the criteria for adopting the currency. Debts worth less than 70% of GDP and inflation at 10% or less.
Clearly, the United Nations and the world need to look into this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So moving on, Happy Democracy Day to all my Nigerian people. The 12th of June was Nigeria's Democracy Day. It was celebrated across the country. It was a bank holiday. On the 6th of June 2018, General Muhammadu Buhari, the current president of Nigeria, changed the Democracy Day from May 29 to June 12 every year. So this is celebrated annually. So moving on, imagine the world at this difficult time of global pandemic, challenges across the globe, people losing their jobs, loved ones having to be laid off. Some have even lost their lives in the process. And there's been so many people across every part of the world, especially in Europe, people in diaspora that has been working hard, or possibly they got some support from the government to help them during the difficult time. And then by so doing, they look to their families back home in Africa, to their families in other parts of the world, and knowing that those ones are also ravaging in challenges of poverty and not having enough money to themselves, and then sending part of the money that they have been supported with in Europe to Africa to help those families of theirs, only to be ripped off by majority of the transfer money companies. In this part of this video, we have dived deeply into the detailed analysis of the transfer rate that majority of these companies are using since the global lockdown about 3 months, 4 months ago. and we are here to enlighten all our viewers and people across the world that they need to think twice on the kind of money transfer company they use when they want to send money to their loved ones across the globe. So if you look at this slide, this is Aboki FX. Aboki FX is the recognized rate in Nigeria, and this is the standard rate that everyone across the world should be using when they send money to Africa, especially all of these money transfer companies, when they take money from their customers and they want to send to Africa. We have dug deep into this. As you can see, you look at this rate. If you are going to be sending £1 to Nigeria, it should be around 538 naira for a pound. If you are going to be selling, it should be 550. If it is euro, if you are going to be selling, it should be 485, and if you are going to be buying, it should be 470. So we have now looked at this standard rate, and then we have decided to benchmark it with about top 6 different transfer money companies that the majority of people uses across the globe to transfer money to send money to their loved ones in Africa. So if you look at the next slide here, this next slide is simply showing us SendWave. SendWave is one of the most commonly used transfer network to Africa. If you look at the rate they've been offering, this is £1 to 472 naira. If you look at the dollar, is $1 to 374 naira. And if you look at the euro, is €1 to 423 naira. Moving on to the next slide, we have also looked at ACE. If you look at the rate they are using, this is the best rate on our list. For every £1, you can be sure to get 505 naira. And this for me goes a long way. For €1, you can be sure you will get 453 naira for every euro. Moving on to the next slide. As you can see in this next slide, transfer-wise, for every pound, it's 469 naira, and for every euro is 422 naira, and for every dollar is around 376 naira. Moving on to the next one, which is WorldRemit. WorldRemit is 464 naira to a pound, and you can see for the US dollar is 371 naira, and for euro is 428 naira. And as you can see, MoneyGram as well is similar. For every £1 is 470 naira, and for every $1 is 374 naira. And then lastly, we've also looked at Azimo. For every £1 is 468 naira, and for every €1 is 429 naira. So what we have done is, in this next slide, is to look at all of those transfer companies. We have dug deep into their detailed information. We've looked at the transfer speed, the transfer fee, and also the advantage and disadvantage of all of these companies. So another key thing we have done here is we want to know how much everyone will be losing for every transfer they make on every pound, every euro, or every dollar. So the Naira loss column that you can see here that is in red, it simply means for every £1 that is sent to Nigeria using WorldRemit, you can be sure you are losing 74 naira. Meaning if you send £100 to Nigeria, you are losing 7,400 naira. It's as simple as that. For Azimo, if you send any £1 to Nigeria, you are losing 70 naira. And you can look at all of this red across these columns, and you will clearly see how much you're losing for sending any amount of money to Nigeria. For instance, for MoneyGram, if you send £1 to Nigeria, you lose 68 naira. For SendWave, you lose 66 naira. And for ACE, you lose just 33 naira. So for ACE, if you send £100 to Nigeria, you are losing 3,300 naira. You can look at all other columns for euro, for US dollar as well. And in terms of transfer speed, as you can see, you can look at all of that. We've looked at convenience, we've looked at transfer speed, A number of them are really good. We've looked at advantages. Majority of them are safe and they are convenient to use. And disadvantage is just that poor low rate that they've been giving to all of their customers. This is ripping off. So at the bottom of this slide, you can see what we have done here is to draw this out in a professional graph, to draw this out so that you see what it looks like, to put it into context. So we have done this to enlighten all our viewers so that they can take a decision on which of these transfer company to use. We have not been paid for this in the first instance, but we just thought we should enlighten all our viewers across the world on this. Hopefully this has helped for you to take a decision on who to use next time. Moving on, so it is my birthday today, the 15th of June.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
So first of all, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has sent all of lovely messages to me today, sending birthday messages. Thank you so much. I really appreciate calls coming through for me from all platforms. Thank you so much. So last week we decided that as a gesture for this birthday, we want to give away around 200k to about 100 people. This went across different social media platforms and we sent message to everyone to send their bank details and we will deposit this money. We are happy to announce to you that we have paid all of our people that sent these bank details to us, and they have been sending all sort of messages, flooding our social media platforms with thank you messages. For your information, we plan to give out around 200k, but we have ended up giving out about 300k to over 100 people because of so many more people that subscribe to this request. Thank you so much to all the contributors, everyone that sent their bank details. We thank you so much as well, and we hope that this is going to be the beginning of better days for your lives in Jesus' name, and we hope to continue to do this more in future. I want to share some of my birthday pictures with every one of you guys. Have a look at this. So before I leave today, I want to leave you with these words of wisdom. Your destiny is always the direct result of your decision. Take a decision today and it could impact your decision for tomorrow. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, please kindly do so. Also feel free to follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.